Hey Fire Emblem Heroes fans! Today I'll be discussing the topic of power creep and how it relates to Fire Emblem Heroes. I'll be going over a general definition of power creep, the elements of power creep present in Fire Emblem Heroes, and how power creep can be both good and bad for the game. As always, these are my observations, reflections, and opinions. I won't necessarily share the same views as you, and vice versa, and that's okay. I'll probably overlook something here and there, so feel free to let me know in the comments. Let's begin. Power creep is defined by the release of newer content in games. Really, any. This is also a really hot topic in trading card games as well. The content released makes older content appear weaker, inferior, or irrelevant in comparison. Power creep can vary in severity. At times, it can be quite benign, as in Fire Emblem Heroes' case, but I'll explain why later on. Or power creep can be absolutely extreme, causing players to abandon older content, be they strategies, characters, or in our case, unit. This shift from the older strategies and content to newer strategies is the creep in power creep. Now that we understand what power creep is, we can take a look at what it looks like in Fire Emblem Heroes. There are two main aspects of power creep in Fire Emblem Heroes. The first is the units themselves. The second are the skills, including weapons. In Fire Emblem Heroes, our units determine our threshold of power. The type of unit, total merges, and skills learned, as well as team composition and situation, be it PvE, PvP, arena, map, also play a role in a unit's overall power. The viability of a unit is then a result of these mentioned factors. Now, let's discuss one critical area of a unit's viability, that being overall stats. Generation 1 units, or rather, units released early on in the game's first year, generally had the following BST. As you can see, Generation 1 units had generally streamlined BST. Generation 2 units saw an overall increase in BST. The steady increase in power, oh, and I mean steady, as it usually takes a majority of an entire year for units to get a BST increase, with small exceptions here and there. Looking at you, Mer. The BST creep can be worrisome, especially for those in competitive arena. BST creep means that unmerged power creep units essentially get to start off with stats that look closer to low merges on the units that came before the increase. Take a look at these two armor units, Effie and Hardin. We can see that the difference in stats is equal to 7. Essentially, Effie at +2 with 1 point left over. The power difference is clear. However, the effect, because remember we have to keep the effect in mind, of the power difference can be relatively harmless. For arena though, it's pretty awful. But Effie is still a solid choice. I personally use her as well. To be honest, arena is, at least the highest tier of arena, is not a welcoming place. It is essentially a place where the top 1,000 players duke it out. And there's a lot of people in the highest levels of arena who essentially can afford to build a +10 bonus unit every single season of arena. There's just not going to be anything that makes the top cut of arena any better, and anyone trying to compete is in for a lot of disappointment. Power creep doesn't necessarily worsen or improve the problem because the problem is always going to be there. Alright, all this talk about arena leads me to my next point, something that I wish I didn't have to talk about, but unfortunately I do, and that is the arena duel skills. The arena duel skills grant the equipped unit 170 BST. At the moment, we only have Flying Red Sword and Green Infantry arena duel skills, but it goes without saying that we will most likely get more. The arena duel skills are extremely polarizing. Many are citing that these changes are the most disgusting thing Intelligent Systems has done yet. What's funny is that they might actually be the best new addition to Arena in a long time. Consider players who chose to ignore score optimization and chose to +10 flyers, mages, or cavaliers. They are now being rewarded with a chance to summon for skills that will allow them to use these units at a level on par with armor in Arena. The skills might be 5-star locked, but that does not mean they are impossible to get. We know that IS reruns banners with good skills. It's up to players to save up and wait for them, especially if they're free to play. I think a lot of the anger comes from the fact that they are not immediately free, but nothing introduced in the game is immediately free. If these individuals would wait a second, they would probably see that one or more of these arena duel skills will be offered over time through GHBs or even story mode. Now let's talk about high tier arena, as the story there is also a good one. Nothing has really changed for the highest tier of arena. The players there are used to dealing with a constant fluctuation of score creep, and this was before the arena duel skills. Is arena awful? You bet. Does score optimization blow? Yep. Is having to have a bonus unit or merged bonus unit a crippling requirement? Oh yes. Is having to have that unit ready every 2 weeks a lot of pressure? Yeah. Do these arena duel skills fix anything? Not at all. Wow, you would think after this series of rhetorical questions that I'd be hopping on the dumpster fire crew, and yet I'm not. High tier arena has and will always demand the most out of a player. The highest tier of arena will always require money, time, dedication, or all three in one. Calling any new changes to arena fixes or bad fixes is wrong. They are at best additions. Arena at its core cannot change. It is a ridiculously ludicrous mode for the game, and honestly that's okay. Arena doesn't have to be accessible to everyone, and if you stop to think about it, that would be pretty silly. Think of Great Summoner tier as a weekly tournament, and tournaments can't have more than a few spots reserved for those who score the best. Is it more about money or investment than skill? Yeah, and that money keeps the game alive. Arena has essentially been broken for too long, and the monetary requirement cannot be addressed without angering the groups of people who support the game the most. It's just that simple, guys. If suddenly the one game mode that drives bi-weekly income would be gone, I don't think the community would suddenly step up and start buying orb packs to replace the loss in profits. We need Arena to stay as is, and that's a tough thing to say, but remember, Arena is just one mode. The rewards are minimal, the investment is high. Why would anyone outside of the usual 1,000 people really care about being able to score better? The bonus unit changes didn't completely destroy Arena or make some other tier completely awful, and I don't think the Arena duel skills are gonna do any worse. Will Great Summoner tier get worse? Maybe. I'm not too excited to see Flying Dancers or Performing Arts Olivia along with probably others as more skills are released, but I do like that it adds variety. A major complaint of Arena is that it lacked variety, that you would see armor over and over again, and it was pretty boring. These Arena duel skills might not fix the core problem, but it does shake things up a bit. Does this equal a massive impact? Not really. Does it change how Arena functions as a whole? No. If you zoned out somewhere in all of this, I'll leave you with this. Arena changes all the time, and that's just how it functions. People who are consistently competitive are used to score creep, new unit creep, power creep, and having to summon for new skills all the time. If you aren't in this tier, I guarantee you this affects you in the most minimal way possible, and if you're angry at nothing. Doing away with the aforementioned constant arena requirements would alienate people who support the game with tons of cash, and a loss in profit could end the game faster than a new skill or change ever could. If you're still upset about these changes after hearing all this. I don't really know what to tell you. Content in Fire Emblem Heroes is a bit odd, as much of it, outside of Arena, as I've already mentioned, can be cleared by relatively low merged units. I mean, the extreme of this is something most free-to-play players hold sacred: the free-to-play guides. Don't worry, this relates to BST, I promise. I follow a handful of channels for Fire Emblem Heroes, and I kid you not, for every new Squad Assault, Bound Hero Battle, Grand Hero Battle, Legendary Hero Battle, Blessed Garden, Blessed Grounds, Asker's Hero Quest, Abyssal difficulty even, we'll talk about Abyssal later, there's always a free-to-play guide. The units used in these clears, be they easy or challenging, are so laughably underpowered compared to units that veteran players, people who have been playing the game for a while and should have a high merged core team by now unless you spend feathers poorly, possess. Even the Abyssal difficulty could be cleared by minor investment in Reinhardt and other free-to-play units, as demonstrated by Phoenix Master 1's guide. Does BST creep make clearing in-game content easier? Maybe. Yeah, probably. Does it matter if the average player can do the same with weaker units? With free units? If so, then why the complaints? See, the salt that gets built over the increased BST ceiling here is rendered quite ridiculous when the game can be cleared by units you are given for free, who are much weaker in comparison. Players still have every right to complain, as we are not all pleased by the same thing. But when looking at the severity, or lack thereof, of the effect on your overall gaming experience and ability to clear content, you must ask yourself if what you're dissatisfied with is even worth complaining about. A lot of what is said here can apply to skill power creep as well. Power creep is happening too soon. Oh boy, here we go. The focus is now on time. I love time. Let's talk about it. Let the game outpace you. Do not try to keep up with the game at all times. It will always be faster than you. You might be confused by what I mean. Fae is a gacha game that updates its content rather slowly at times. But when new stuff does come out, it can catch you off guard. Maybe you didn't save orbs. Maybe you spent the orbs summoning for your older units. Who knows? But for many of us, we do get caught unprepared and unfortunately try desperately to keep up. What I mean then, by letting the game outpace you, is easier to understand now. You won't always be ready for every new banner, unit, or skill in the game, or whatever change, power creep, is thrown at players, be it arena or increased difficulty. And that's okay. You get to decide when you're ready, not the game. There is never an immediate need to keep up with everything, and we must resist that want if we are to have a healthy gaming experience. Fight the fear of missing out as much as you can, and I promise you the game and your experience with it will be better going forward. Also, side note, sometimes turn down the hype, as hype is the source of disappointment, not its opposite. I spent a great deal of time discussing what power creep is, what is power creep, and its effects, because that's what really matters. That I didn't really go into why is power creep. I'll start with a disclaimer. The following is not an attack on capitalism or a political statement in any way. It's just an explanation, I promise. Anyway, Fire Emblem Heroes follows a generally predictable capitalistic model that most other companies follow. Release stuff, in our case, content, make money. Make new stuff in like a year or half a year that outdates the old, make money. Repeat and repeat and repeat until no more money can be made, or if the money no longer satisfies the investors, company, or whoever's in charge. Okay, does this sound familiar to anyone? It really should, because this same pattern is literally everywhere. I can't tell you how many phones I've gone through already, computers that lost to newer processors in just 1 year's time, or cards in Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh! That are no longer as strong as newer cards. The conclusion here is that planned obsolescence is inevitable in capitalist societies. If things are made to last forever, money is lost. If enough money, and no, not enough money according to your standards, unless you work for the company or are an investor or executive of some sort. If enough money is lost, then support for the product goes down or goes away completely. So yeah, quite a bit was covered in this video. Normally, this is the part where I give my thoughts, but I'm sure there's evidence somewhere in the video. I'll give you guys a few small reminders. Power creep, in the end, is just a byproduct of money making, something that most of our current societies force on us. Power creep can make older things seem irrelevant, but free-to-play guides and good team building can keep older units, skills, and strategies relevant. Power creep comes at an actual creep, that is a crawl, a steady progression, and almost always at a year or half a year's time. Even if this is too fast, remember that you don't always have to keep up with everything. It will all be there waiting for you, even seasonals.